It's always just between us, all right?
It's great to have you on Between Us here on 938 Live. I'm Angela Lim, and as always, we're sharing inspiring stories that matter to you, as well as exploring relationship issues. Today on the program, I'm going to talk to two of my guests today. Cheryl Chung is co-founder of youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50. We're going to hear a little bit more about what that charity initiative aims to do. And joining Cheryl in the studio today as well is one of the change makers as part of the 50 for 50 initiative. Eve Peck is telling us a little bit more about the association she's supporting, the Autism Association. Eve, Cheryl, so happy to have both of you here today.
Hi, Angela.
Let's start a little bit with Cheryl. I think it's such an amazing thing to have, the young generation, young people spearheading an initiative like 50 for 50. Share with us what are some of your thought processes that you and your co-founder, Rebecca, had in mind for this initiative.
So 50 for 50 is basically a project that's about coming together to do something different. And it is about changing the mindset that we Gen Y folk don't care about the community. And 50 for 50 brings Gen Y folks from all walks of life together in creating a new perspective to contributing back to the society.
Okay.
And we hope to demonstrate that creativity can also be channeled to doing good.
In this case, you mentioned that there are 50 change makers that you guys have actually reached out to. And of course, Eve here is one of those change makers. Yes.
Mm.
We're going to hear a bit more about the Autism Association in just a bit, Eve. But tell us a bit more about how you guys actually reached out to these young people that you selected, or you guys actually selected together.
Yeah, so the project's objective is to activate and empower 50 individuals who are under 35 to raise awareness and funds for charities, which they feel personally for, or if they can relate to these causes. So basically, we gathered these 50 change makers through word of mouth, referrals from friends of friends, and they basically are individuals who would like to do something different, something out of their day jobs, want to make a difference, want to contribute back to society in whatever ways they can possibly contribute.
I mean, I understand that there's a very interesting twist to this, because the amount of money that is raised, depending on how much each of these change makers actually have raised, there'll actually be, a top-up as well from the government. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so change makers will go about raising funds, and corporate donors are also invited to match these funds raised, or dollar for dollar, and this entire amount will then be matched under the Care and Share movement by the Community Chest. Yep.
Wow, okay, so that actually, the money actually snowballs, in the sense that how many people actually support a certain cause, that money actually grows a lot bigger to the organization.
4 times bigger.
Amazing. So let's hear a bit more about that, Eve, because, she mentioned, Cheryl mentioned that, people reached out to change makers like yourself through word of mouth, through referrals. Who actually reached out to you?
So Miss Ilim Chu from 77th Street, she called me one day and told me that Rebecca, one of the co-founder of 50 for 50, she was actually doing this project and asked me if I would like to join as one of the change makers.
Okay.
Didn't think much and said yes, because it was something that I would like to do as well.
Yeah. So how did you come, and narrow your option down to the Autism Association per se? Because there's so many organizations,
Correct.
Being someone who's young and bright-eyed and wanting to change the world, I'm sure there are a lot of, organizations out there that you feel might be worthy of the money that you're going to raise. Why Autism Association?
So this is actually quite a personal story, because my cousin, she's a single mom. She only recently, the first half of this year, that I realized that my nephew is already 6 and he is autistic. So he suffers from autism since young, but they only found out when he was 4, because he couldn't speak and he had speech impairment. So that's when she brought him to diagnose and realized that he's autistic. And through that, I realized that she had a lot of difficulties handling her child. And it was a promise that I made to myself, because I started a company recently. And this company, when we are going to get profits, I was to donate some of the profits to an organization.
Right, so it's sort of a social enterprise.
Yeah, when she told me about this, it was a promise to myself, and I told myself that, okay, this is the first organization I'm going to donate to.
Right.
And a couple months, like 2 months down the road, Miss Elim Chiu just called me, and I thought, wow, fated. So
Right.
it's a coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of something that you couldn't not jump on, and you
Yeah.
thought Autism Association would be perfect. Share a little bit about some of the, the personal experiences you've had with your nephew who suffers from autism. Not much is known about it, I think, among the general public. Sometimes we don't know that. You can't tell right from the start that the
It's
child is
really-
autistic. Share a little bit about your nephew and what you've grown to understand about autism.
So I don't know much about autism, but when I visited my cousin and my nephew, I realized that he has, like you said, he looks like a normal child. There's nothing wrong with him. But when he interacts with you, there is a certain delay, and he keeps repeating himself. So that's one thing that I learned from my cousin, that she doesn't turn on the TV at all, because he tends to pick up sounds or words and he repeats them the entire day. It could even go on for the entire week. So she stops TV as advised by her therapist. So it's actually really a hard thing for adults to not turn on the TV or radio, for
Right.
example, because of all the sounds that they pick up. So she's trying to train him and mold him to understand that there are more ways to learn things than to pick up from TV.
Right. I mean,
And-
these are just, examples of, I guess, the day-to-day things that we all take for granted that we don't
Correct.
really even think about. But actually, to the child suffering from autism, these are things that actually get in the way of them learning,
Yes.
get in the way of them interacting with others. We're going to hear a bit more as well, Eve, about your experiences with your nephew, things that maybe the general public, our listeners can actually know a bit more about when it comes to autism. We'll also hear more from Cheryl about how listeners can actually help out if they want to support the 50 for 50 initiative. It's actually a youth-led charity initiative co-founded by one of my guests today, Cheryl Chung. Joining her today, Eve Peck, who's a change maker in support of the Autism Association. Between Us will continue in just a short while, so stay tuned.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.
Chatting today with Cheryl Chong, co-founder of youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50. Joining her today as well is changemaker Eve Peck, who's in support of the Autism Association. And of course, Eve has been telling us earlier about how this cause is very personal to you, Eve, because your cousin is actually a single mom looking after your nephew who suffers from autism. Share with us some of the other day-to-day challenges that we take for granted that you found that your cousin struggles with.
So, for example, when I went to her place and my nephew was actually eating, after he finished his meal, she taught me to not instruct him what to do next, so that he uses his brains to think a bit before he acts on the next step. So what I did was I just reminded him and told him that, so after you eat, what should you do? He thinks a bit and then he'll say, wash hands. And then he goes to wash his hands. And when he comes back, then I told him, what should you do next? Then he got reminded that he's supposed to throw away like the rubbish that he has after he has eaten. So these are things that I feel all of us take for granted. All of us instruct the children what to do next because they feel that this is they never realize that the thought process for a child suffering from autism is actually different from a child who is normal.
And without specific therapy or without professional help, sometimes it's very hard to understand, thought process and how best to teach a child to pick up habits or to learn in school as well. When you were interacting with your nephew, did you find that, there were things he could do pretty much very well, actually, despite the fact that he had these challenges? And do you think sometimes people misunderstand those suffering from autism?
Yeah, of course. For example, when he does things like when my cousin was reading him a book and they read it together, he understands it quite well. It's just that he couldn't concentrate because he was all over the place. He wanted to do something different, and he felt that reading a book was boring. So that was something that I feel it's all normal kids do the same. But for things like when I interacted with him, when I told him like, let's play a game, let's play hide and seek, he couldn't understand the instructions really well. And that's also the reason why my cousin told me that he's ostracized from other children. And he doesn't get along well with other children at playgrounds. He tend to become alone because he doesn't take instructions very well.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these things in childhood, for a young boy or young girl, can really shape and mold the rest of your life. You might not feel very confident because people don't accept you as part of their social group. I mean, so many of these things can be prevented with good treatment, with good help at the same time. Your connections with the Autism Association, I think you've actually been down, a couple of times to actually find out more about what they do. Can you share about a couple of highlights for you when you went down?
Okay, so when I went down, I was introduced to how they actually taught the children. It's called early intervention, so that you can mold them to be able to attend school like normal children. If they cannot, then they will put them into autism school, which actually still helps them go through all the education programs. What they do is they, like what my cousin teaches her nephew, they don't instruct them what to do, but they have this time chart where they know what to do next. And then if it's like sleeping time, they will know that, okay, now I'm holding the sleeping card, so I'm going to go for my nap time.
Right.
Or if I'm holding the reading a book or music card, and then that's what I'm supposed to do. So they actually tend to be more independent when they are there. And they get to learn a lot more stuff, like maybe for the more active one, they do gym, and they have a really beautiful gym. Like it's surrounded with cushions. I feel like jumping into it. Yeah, it's really very fun. And they make the activities fun, and they try to personalize the courses to the child.
Right. It's really important to have that specialized, sort of curriculum, the way of teaching that's very specific to people suffering from autism, because at the end of the day, they can be really self-sufficient and they're very brilliant at a certain task and certain things as well. We're going to find out more about what these are, and also a little bit more about Eve's involvement as well with the Autism Association. Cheryl also tells more about how we can all help, I guess, the change maker here. Eve Peck tells a bit more about Autism Association as well. You can find out more details about 50 for 50 in just a bit. Cheryl Chong and Eve Peck are my guests today. Cheryl's co-founder of youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50, and changemaker Eve Peck is in support of the Autism Association. Between Us will continue after headlines and sports. Stay tuned.
Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live. It's always just between us, all right?
Chatting today with Cheryl Chong, who's co-founder of the youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50, and changemaker Eve Peck joins us today, and Eve is in support of the Autism Association. Eve has been telling us so far about how personal this experience is for her. Eve, share a little bit about your experiences also with the children when you were there at the Autism Association. Maybe tell us about what some of the things the Autism Association does out.
Okay, so when I was there, I went to Eden's Children's Center, and that's when they teach the kids to be prepared for school in future. And this way of early intervention actually helps them to be able to interact better and to be able to improve their communication skills. And when I went to the adult center, which was also Eden Adult Center at Hougang, and I realized that there are things where that's when I realized that they actually do repetitive jobs, and these are actually jobs like assembly line jobs where you fold boxes or you fold brochures and do data entry. And if any of you listeners have any friends or family who has such jobs, you can pass it on to them, and it will be for a minimal fee, and they will be given to those who actually help up doing the job.
Right.
Yeah.
So the employment aspect is actually quite important as well to the Autism Association, empowering anyone suffering from autism with their skills, with the sort of opportunities that allow them to make their own living as well.
Correct.
I mean, apart from repetitive, work as well, I've met people who suffer from autism that are brilliant artists, or they're really good at sketching, for example. So there's so many things that we really need the public to understand that those suffering from autism can do, and the help that you're getting them as well, Eve, will be, I'm sure, very beneficial as well. Could you tell us a bit more about how the fundraising is going? How has it happened so far? How much have you managed to raise?
Okay, so I've managed to raise about $7,000+, and I have more funds coming in because I just did a flea yesterday at Scape. Thank you, Scape, for sponsoring the booth to me. And I sold clothes. I got some donated clothes from my friends who opened their online boutique, or personal friends who actually have their own clothes and wish to donate it because they asked me to do the flea, and then once we get the funds, we'll put it up to Give Asia. Like what we mentioned earlier on, every dollar raised is 4 times the amount. So I think we raised about $500. So that's about $2,000 to Autism Association.
Right, that's wonderful. I mean, just seeing that, you know, even things like old clothing and things like that can actually really go to a good cause.
Yeah, and also that's just one of the events that we have done. One more event that I've done is my company, Success Legacy. We have a website where we do live streaming of workshops, and these workshops actually can be downloaded at a cost. And the kind mentor who actually did the workshop was really willing to give part of the download fee to Autism Association. So that's where we raise some funds as well. So you can go to www.successlegacy.com and you'll be able to find that. The last fundraising that I have that's with the help of Carrie Yo and Dia. They are actually doing a singing event where they sing at Habitat Coffee, that's on 223A Upper Thompson Road, and that will be on the 20th of December, 8 to 9:15. The tickets are going for $50, and ticket holders are actually entitled to a free cup of coffee that is from specially picked coffee beans for the event.
Right.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I mean, there's so many ways. I love how all of you are so creative in the ways that you guys are trying to raise funds, tapping in your own expertise, the things you already have. Tell us how you feel, Cheryl, just seeing that, you know, how enthusiastic people are. This really goes to the point of why you guys started this to begin with, getting youth involved.
Yeah, and they are really putting in all their effort and their resources, all their ideas into raising funds. We have so many other kinds of events that are coming up, like there's a Rally for Hope in support of Rainbow Center by Changemaker Si Xue. And talking about singing event, 3 of our changemakers, Rebecca, Sean, and Gerald, are having a sing-off at Wallace.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, and in support of Caregivers Alliance, Apex Day Rehab Center, and the St. Andrew's Cathedral Home for the Aged. And also, there's this food event coming up.
Oh, everyone loves food here in Singapore.
There's a Makan Makan in support of the Home Nursing Foundation happening on 6th of December at the Sultan.
Okay. So there's so many ways that our listeners can get involved as well. We're going to find out what those are, you know, how all of us can actually do a part just kind of to support all these organizations. We're also going to hear from Cheryl a little bit more about the other change makers that are involved and the kind of initiatives and organizations they're supporting. All this coming up in just a bit. Cheryl Chong, my guest today, co-founder of youth-led charity initiative SG50, or rather 50 for 50, and one of the change makers. Eve Peck is here in support of the Autism Association.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live.
Chatting today with Cheryl Chong, co-founder of youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50, and also changemaker Eve Peck, who's been telling us so far about the Autism Association, the organization as she's supporting. So far, Eve's managed to get about $7,000+ That's going to be quadrupled until it's about $28,000. You can head on down to this website, www.50for50.sg. That's all numbers, 50450.sg. But before we go to that, Cheryl, tell us a bit about all the other changemakers that you've actually been in touch with. What are some of the highlights for you that you feel really excited about?
I think it's the various kind of ideas. It's thinking out of the box. Like, for example, another change maker called Jia Yi. She has specially designed Christmas cards in the spirit of giving, and proceeds all go to her charity, Dai Hua Kwan, Moral Charities. Yeah. And and I think another change maker, Sherry, in support of migrant workers' health serve, is having a prata party.
Oh, that sounds delicious. So many ways. I mean, it's great because young people always full of ideas.
Yeah.
You know, you can never finish brainstorming new ways to raise the funds. Tell us a bit more about how how we can actually go about this. I mean, listeners now tuning in going, okay, this sounds really exciting. I want to be part of it. I want my money to be like, quadrupled. Tell us how exactly we can go about contributing.
So our main platform of fundraising is through the Give Asia online platform. So we have created a 50 for 50 movement, 50 FOR 50 movement on the Give Asia website. So all our change makers have created their very personalized page. They give a brief of why they're doing this and why you should support their charities all on their Give Asia page. And I think you need a credit card. That's about it. And
it's kind of like buying stuff online, right? It's very simple, just a click away.
Yeah, it's you do have a button on the right hand side. I think it's a pink button that writes donate now. It takes you to the next page where you click which organization you would like to donate to. So once you click on that, it will drop down, and then there are steps like fill in your name, your email address, and there is tax deduction part. Certain organizations have tax deduction for any amount. For mine is $100, and you get tax deducted. Well, I think it's automated if I'm not wrong. And then you go to the next page, you make the payment, you type in your credit card details, and you're done.
It's really literally just a few clicks just to make someone smile. I guess this festive season as well. And it's not just, just giving money. It's also participating in all these activities that are coming up as well. On a final note, I guess, Cheryl, if you could tell us a couple of things that are coming up, things that our listeners can actually head on down for as well, or just remind us some of the details.
Yeah, so 3rd December at Wallace, the sing-off. 6th December at the Sultan, Makan, and Prata Party is also on 6th December.
Okay, if you want more details on these events, they all sound really exciting. Head on down to the website, www.50for50.sg. That's www.50450.sg. Alternatively, if you're on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter as well, you can search 50 for 50 SG. That's it's 50 spelled 450.
50 FOR 50
Perfect.
SG.
So head on down to those channels as well to find out more information. My two guests today have been telling us so far about the youth-led charity initiative 50 for 50. A co-founder, Cheryl Chong, joins us today. Also, changemaker Eve Peck has been sharing about the Autism Association, the organization she's supporting. Eve, Cheryl, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.